to Different Gravy, not just another Sheffield Wednesday podcast. I'm one of the hosts, Richard Miller, and my co-host has agreed with me to replace the usual chirpy intro with a public service announcement. For the good of your own sanity and everything and everyone you hold dear, do not Google the Burton Albion mascot. Bertie Brewer is a hideous, lumpen abomination that will stalk the darkest corners of your mind, and his wife Betty just adds insult to injury. Known side effects of contact with this monster include, but are not limited to, blisters and peeling skin, numbness and tingling, brewer's droop, the opposite of brewer's droop, a painful, permanent erection, unusual urges for sex and gambling, nightmares and vivid dreams, and rectal bleeding. I thank my co-host, Dr. Luke Gledall, for agreeing to forgo his normal intro with this vital announcement. How are you doing today, Luke?
I'm good. Thank you for keeping the seriousness.
Well, we've got to.
My request.
We've got to, really, haven't we? We've all got to do our bit.
It does, and I just stay away from it, folks. You know,
yeah.
Just leave that to a pithy comment I've got later in the match review later on today.
I mean, it speaks to the quality of the football on display. When you really start noticing the mascot pitch side, you know you're watching some primo League One football. But aside from monsters haunting your nightmares, you well?
Yeah, I'm doing good. It's been a fun week, and it's looking forward to a fun weekend. And what better way to cap off a fun weekend or to kickstart a fun weekend than chatting to you about hoo-hoos and Sheffield Wednesday? Yeah,
and I mean, this is in the world of Wednesday, weeks don't come much better.
I think it could be, but let's get into it.
Breaking hoo-hoos.
Hoo-hoos to be broken. First off, we had our deadline day departures. It was the end of the transfer window on Monday.
Billy departed.
Yeah. So we had a sort of dalliance with the fact that Lewis Wing was going to go, and then it seemed to drop off, but he's not played since then. I don't know whether we were annoyed that he was happy to go back, or he was annoyed that we were willing. I don't know what was going on, but he's left us and joined Wickham on a permanent deal.
Yeah, which was funny because I heard it was permanent. I think I heard a different news source say a loan signing.
Oh, okay.
But it is a permanent. But it was just funny because it entertained me for a second, being like, I think I'd be a bit miffed if he left and then went to sign for a loan signing for another kind of playoff promotion contender.
Yeah.
Which is we've already had enough of that with Cobano going to MK Dons. Isn't it weird? Like, I mean, it felt for a while that we were really developing into a very settled midfield three with Bannon, Luongo, and FDB.
Yeah.
And then Tuesday we heard that Luongo was missing out.
Yeah.
And then fast forward to the situation of at the end of that game, FDB coming off with quite a serious injury.
It didn't look a good one, did it?
Did not look a good one. So I know I'm jumping ahead in terms of timeline here, but it looked strange to think about what kind of coverage we have in the middle. Again, it's that situation of saying that, you know, hey, we're playing with a bank of three centre-backs. Therefore, now we can kind of acclimatise to the numbers of having seemingly 8 options, of which numerous ones are crocked, injured, or we know we're going to spend some definite time on the sidelines, on the physio, on the treatment table.
Yeah.
And, you know, again, then we're looking at the situation in the middle of the park. And then, you know, so after Wing went, I mean, I was thinking about it and being like, I'm disappointed he's been as bad as he has been.
Yeah.
I think the interesting thing is we do naturally, I like to think that me and you, and probably other people know as well, let's be honest, are probably hopeful and realistic enough to know that sometimes there are players with talents that don't translate themselves to Sheffield Wednesday or don't translate themselves well to Sheffield Wednesday at a certain period. Lewis Wing was definitely one of those, but I think, and especially looking back at when we did the the mid-season review points to look back and say, I do have some kind of weird faith that these players can repay us some of that faith we've put in them.
Yeah.
So there's a number of those characters, right? There's Byers, which is something we'll come on to. Shadipo, and a few other names as well who've been and Wing. So players that we thought that could come back and surprise us. I must say that even though I kind of give that condition, I'm still surprised that players do come back and surprise us.
Yes.
Including, a player I think we'll get on to. Well, we've just mentioned Byers, who's kind of come back and given us some things to think about, and also Marvin Johnson.
Silaso, I think, is another one that's...
Silaso, yeah, exactly. So stuff that really shows that, it is... playing football in these times really is a squad game.
I wonder if the tricky thing for Wing was... Because I have heard some people say, and I think there probably is some validity to the criticism, we never really gave him opportunities in his specialised position within the midfield. I know everybody's, they're all central midfielders, but I think the role he tended to shine in for Rotherham was sort of what we asked Barry Bannon to do, being at the kind of cutting edge end of that link between midfield and attack. And with the best will in the world, we can't have two people being Barry Bannon. And I think particularly with Barry Bannon, he's so insistent on getting the ball and doing what he does. Maybe Wing's left trying to fit round quite a big personality, a big character, and doing things he's not as good at, doing things that really aren't suited to him. And that's why we've had such a disappointing spell from him.
Do you think it's interesting? This is kind of getting onto looking at George Byers, but it felt like we had, on paper, we've got a lot of names of a lot of quality for this midfield, the centre mid berths. But then it felt for a while like we never really got the alchemy of that, because I think the thing you've mentioned is Wing and Bannon did not play very well together for, I think there's reasons you've set out. And then there was a weird question with Byers as to where does he kind of fit in?
Because I also think, but maybe I'm sort of looking back with slightly rose-tinted glasses, but Bannon didn't play that Wigan game, did he, away? That was. I don't think Wing particularly shone, but we did win that. I feel like the couple of times Bannon hasn't played, we've actually coped quite well in that situation, but you'd rather have Bannon if you've got not well enough that you'd go, we'll leave Bannon out.
Yeah, but that's a giant narrative around Bannon, right?
Yeah. Which
is, I think when it doesn't work, I think that's why kind of fans kind of clever to say it's not working with Bannon, and therefore if we lose Bannon, it doesn't... I don't think we ever really, the times without Bannon, we never look like we're hurting massively.
No.
But, I think, like you said, if you've got someone with that quality and someone who's shown that quality, then you'd much rather want them in the team. But the problem has come from times where, especially with, set pieces, because historically, more often than not, Barry Bannon has been pretty poor at corners.
Yeah.
Free kicks, better with free kicks. Let's have it that way.
It's actually one of the best things about Mendes Lang becoming part of the squad now, is that actually we seem to have a viable second option for some of those set pieces, which I don't think Wing tried on set pieces and wasn't any better most of the time.
No, he didn't cover himself in glory, did he?
Yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame it didn't work out for him. I think everybody was very excited with the signing. Weirdly now, he will have played for all three of the teams that were relegated last season from the Championship.
That is funny.
It's a funny little coinky-dink. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see if Wickham can get a tune out of him. I think by and large, it's a bit like I don't know, you don't want people to have a bad time at your football club, and it feels like Lewis Wing had a really miserable time. He never looked happy. We never really got on board with him, and I don't think he'll look back with any fondness on the 6 months he spent at Hillsborough, unfortunately. And that's, I don't know, it just doesn't feel karmically very nice to have that happen in life. The other departure was one that we did flag up. The other thing we should mention with Wing being allowed to go is it came hot on the heels of the fact that we had this announcement from Adeniran that he's out for the season.
Yeah, which is also kind of backs up that commentary about what of our centre mid options, which is then, for the space of a few days, we've lost Wing to a transfer, we've lost Adeniran to surgery and the recovery of that.
Yeah.
Looks like we've lost Deli Bashuru to a serious injury, which we still don't know how serious that is, but it's looking fairly serious. So, big questions around the centre mid free. So, that came to be like, hey, George Byers is probably going to come in and play some football. Who else would you really kind of put in there? I mean, Patterson, maybe?
Patterson can do a job in there. It never feels 100% natural, but he's got ability. I actually thought when he came on midweek, he was spraying the ball about rather nicely, actually. It's weird. He's for someone that looks so poorly put together in some ways, he sometimes really produces some moments of quality. Interesting. I mean, an interesting decision. I think in terms of numbers, we probably would have rather had him around, but maybe it means we've seen youngsters training with the squad this week, so maybe it means those youngsters are a little bit closer to getting some time.
And maybe it gives someone an option. For the youngsters, I think in terms of a lens, kind of looking at someone like Kieran Brennan, it gives someone an opportunity to come in and have a spell of a few games, kind of covering while players get back to fitness and kind of plug a hole for a while.
Yeah.
And I think we've done okay with the youngsters. I don't think there's anyone who's really screaming head and shoulders above the rest to be included on a first-team basis on a regular everyday basis. It makes me wonder if, do you think we might see Hunt Jr. come back in?
Maybe, yeah. I mean, that's another factor, isn't it? But then he's out on loan, isn't he? So,
he is out on loan, but I'm sure he could probably be recalled. Yeah. Let's be honest. I'm sure for Wednesday's purposes, they probably want him to stay there and after his contract extension and keep playing and keep develop himself as a player. Getting regular minutes. Am
I right in thinking we've seen Brennan play in midfield previously, or has it always been defence?
I feel like maybe he's played a role at like a kind of centre CDM.
Yeah.
To forgive my footy man parlance.
I feel like him and Waldock, we've seen them both play centre back and centre midfield. But
and we still have Liam Waldock, don't we?
Yeah. Anyway, so the other person that's gone, we did talk about this briefly previously, but Adedoyan, that was sort of looking like it was off, and then it happened at the very last moment that he was allowed to go and join Accrington Stanley again on a permanent deal. Mm-hmm. I believe we'll get some money for that, or we will have received some fee there. But best of luck with it to him. It'd be interesting to see if he gets games, to see how close he is to things at Accrington Stanley. Almost as a benchmark of, I don't think anybody's, as you say, clamouring for him to get into a Wednesday team. But is not good enough for Wednesday still good enough for other teams in our league? Is an interesting sort of question to play around with. Trying to see if he played this weekend.
You mean in their game where they played against League One topping behemoth Rotherham? Where they lost 1-0.
On the Luke. Oh, he did get on. He came on 53rd minute. So, yeah, good on him. If he goes and gets game time, fair dues.
Sure. Best of luck to Adedoyan in his career.
So, the other big chunk of news, so this is where we cover midweek matches, is the game against Morecambe. So, as you touched on, no Luongo. He missed out. And they were at pains to say it was just purely rested. That was sort of briefed. He was at the game. He was all smiles. The local press were briefed that this is genuinely he is being rested. He's not injured. So I think probably to allay fears to an extent. But it meant Byers came in, and Byers, it's a long time since he's started a game of football for Wednesday, partly through injury, partly through not really establishing himself. Luke's favourite player thus far in the season. The other bit of news we had pre-match was that Darren Moore had COVID again and was absent from pitch side. So, we're coming off the back of there's 2 games in a row at Hillsborough. We'd beaten Ipswich Town at the weekend. Morecambe are one of our frustrating early in the season games where we kind of gave up a goal and then toiled and didn't really. I think we had shot after shot and just didn't make anything stick against them at their place. So a bit of an opportunity for revenge. But I think the big story from this game, unfortunately, is the injuries that we picked up around it. I mean, it's great that we got a result, and we can talk about how that sort of came about. But the first major incident was Harley Dean getting injured, which is so heartbreaking. And I mean, he's talked about himself being a player that never gets injured. And he walks in the door at Hillsborough. I mean, maybe hubris, their name is Harley. But but yeah, it's for somebody who is notably not, doesn't succumb to injury that often, to immediately pull on the blue and white of Sheffield Wednesday and just crock himself, get crocked is it's dripping with all sorts of awful dramatic tension, isn't it?
Very much so. Do you think again, really awful comparisons with Aidan Flint into Wednesday? Starts plays a good game, has a really decent game, plays another game, picks up an injury very early on, goes off. Yeah. Big injury. And
immediately, same with Flint, in that immediately when you see him play, you're like, yeah, this is what we've been after. This is what we need. And then that immediately on identifying where the need is, the person that fulfills that need is gone. But replaced by Palmer, a bit of a reshuffle then. So we went Story, Hutchinson, Palmer in that back 3. So two people who are very familiar with playing with each other at this stage, and then Story, who's been a great addition himself. It didn't have quite the sort of noisy impact that Dean did, but I think looking back on these first 3 games, he looks like a very, very, very decent acquisition. Does Jordan Story. 7th minute, we had a free kick. Bannon played the ball over the top for Windass, and Windass hit a volley so hard that the goalkeeper needed to change his shorts.
Well, he seemingly did that. The only notes I really have from this game, I should have made some notes against this game, but seemingly that my notes is that Windass seemed to deal out 2 concussions.
I guess so.
As part of this game, by just sheer blasting the ball into people's faces.
Yeah.
Injuries you'd think would be kind of put together if in some kind of kids Disney TV show, really.
So he the volley hit him square in the face. He needed some treatment. He then sort of struggled on, but he did change his shorts. So this needs to be talked about, I think. We're all adults here. We don't need to snigger about this, but did he soil himself, do you think?
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
I think if Windass whacked a ball in my face, I think I'd shit myself.
I mean, often when you think it is going to be Windass, you can misjudge, can't you? And it's more of a solid ass, and
But it was Windass the one who followed through, so that's kind of interesting.
Oh dear. The defense immediately looked pretty shaky when Dean went off. I think things looked like people weren't quite sure who was doing what roles for a little bit of time. On the 22nd minute, Carson was removed. They did change keeper in the end. I meant my next note was that chances keep falling to Canberry, who looks really short on confidence. All of our kind of good moments, we did have some good moments, but they all seemed to fall to Canberry, who was looking for other people to pass to and not looking really to take shots on himself. He looks a bit gun shy at the moment. 35th minute, probably the best chance of the game for Wednesday. Nathaniel Mendez-Lang bursts onto the ball, powers into the box, plays it to Canberry, who then kind of played it back to him, a bit of a 1-2 of sorts. And Cooney for them made a great block to stop that being an effort on target. We then had a goal judged offside in the 41st minute. Bannon played a great ball over the top. Johnson scored, but was judged offside. I wasn't sure. We don't get great angles on the games, unfortunately, too often. But then the last moment of the half was Deli Bashiru getting crunched. I couldn't work out because I was sort of worried Deli Bashiru might get in trouble. I thought Deli Bashiru was the one that was late. I think the ball had kind of gone, but then the contact happened afterwards. But it didn't look good, did it? It looked like a real clunk, and then he needed quite a lot of assistance to get off the pitch at the end of the game, at the end of the half. Break in wherever you need to, by the way. But I've just got chance after chance for Wednesday. Not many requiring a save from the keeper, but we need to keep that pace and intensity to things. Add a bit of quality in those key moments, and the defence looks slightly worrying. So possibly we need to get not just one goal but two. That was my kind of half-time thoughts. Patterson came on instead of Deli Bashiru, so that was the change that was made. 49th minute, we had another goal chalked off. A short corner routine resulted in Byers crossing for Canberry, and it was a really lovely cross by Byers. Canberry nodded it home, but Canberry was judged offside. It's 55 minutes, just as you start to despair at our poor luck. Mendes-Lang beats a man, feeds Bannon, who lays the ball off to Byers, who absolutely thumps it into the top corner from 20 yards out. This was a peach of a goal.
What a finish. Yeah, I just love the one from the outside the box where you hit it, and it looks like it's probably from the angle we get from the south stand on the cameras, it looks like it's kind of bending away. But it just looks like some kind of long, swerving kind of Roy of the Rovers rocket into the top right corner. It was fantastic.
It was great. For a guy that's not scored for us, although he has gone close, he's hit the post a few times for us. He's had a bit of the Darren Potters about him in that regard. Just absolutely thumped home and capped off a good return to the first team. I thought he'd had a good game all round, really. He'd not looked out of place. He does like a tackle. He likes a bit of a naughty tackle sometimes. What a great goal and nice to get the rewards. We've had so many games like this season where we just haven't finished it, haven't taken that chance, and it was good. It was good to see us do that. We did then sort of have a period of kind of dawdling, and towards the end of the game, we were sort of asking Morecambe to have a go at us. We had a brilliant moment for Hutch where he cleared the ball off the line twice and then out of the box a third time, all in one fell swoop. And that, unfortunately, that was sort of encouraged by a Peacock Farrell flap. He had a bit of a mad 20 minutes or so towards the end there, which luckily we escaped from. We escaped without conceding. And then the 90+1 minute, Berahino actually does something useful, finds Mendes-Lang, who scores one of the scrappiest goals you'll ever see. A piece of performance art based on this knackered-looking Wednesday team just about dragging a win over the line. We did look a bit tired. We looked a bit leggy. It looked like a Tuesday after a Saturday, but we got the job done.
That we did. I mean, Tuesdays usually follow Saturdays, Rich. But I get your point.
They do. You're right.
A few days in between.
They don't always have matches on them.
That's true. That is very true. Yeah, job done. I mean, but it's a difficult win to swallow with three pretty serious, heavy casualties to the Sheffield Wednesday side. Added
to the fact that we've broken another loanee, we've broken somebody else's toy again. We were given a borrow. Tyrese John Jules, and we've broken him too. I'm not lending my toys to you anymore. You Brit, everyone I give you. That's my Mikel Arteta impression. He spent a lot of time in London and Glasgow, so his accent is just landed right in the middle, which is Newcastle. I don't like Patrick Aubameyang at all. I'm going to get rid of him, send him to Barcelona.
Oh, dear. This
Yeah.
is a shame that there's no emergency loan window
Yes.
and there's no return policy on the toys we are given. Not even a warranty
There's
on
no
this.
cooling off period for Arsenal youngsters. We don't like this one. Having got it home, it's a bit shabby. Can we have another one, please?
We've bought it directly from the supplier, which runs a shop, but then both the supplier, the manufacturer, and the shop have both gone out of business when we've taken our John Jules back to it on the mall.
Do you have another double-barreled youngster, please? I know the database says you don't, but could you just go and check in the back?
You sure you don't have another E-Banks lying around?
There's so many E-Banks.
There's so many E-Banks.
A costly win in many ways. And there was such a bleak. I don't know whether Moore was feeling like down from his isolation or something like that, but it really was such a bleak injury update, because he was just saying no to everything. They were going like, so those 4 that were injured around the Tuesday game, any chance of any of them being back? No, none of them are going to be back. No. And we've seen some pictures of Iorfa and a couple of other people training. Any chance of them make it? No, none of those 3 are going to be back. Just it's a pretty bleak picture in terms of the injury situation at the moment. Mm-hmm. Which makes it all the more intriguing that we've put together a run of positive form.
3 on the bounce and 3 clean sheets. Yeah. Well, coming into today.
Oh yeah. Spoiler.
No.
Oh no. It was a win all along. Yeah.
But why did Luke and Rich sound so deflated?
Yeah, Bruce. It's the Sheffield Wednesday squad, the opposite of unbreakable, just like constantly, falling to pieces.
What's the bit in the podcast where Luke and Rich debate whether Trevor Braithwaite, the media director at Sheffield Wednesday, will put on a shirt? It's getting there, isn't it?
It is getting there. It's getting there. Where do you think he would play?
Probably a sweeper. Probably an old-fashioned role. Yeah.
Not asking questions of the defence.
Left wing half.
So we lined up Bailey, Peacock, Farrell in goal. That same back 3 that finished the game midweek. So we had Story, Hutchinson, Palmer. Hunt was shuffled back into the pack, so he played right wing back. Johnson stayed left wing back, and then the midfield of Luongo, Byers, and Bannon. The same as midweek, and a pairing up front, an unlikely pairing of Callum Patterson and Nathaniel Mendes-Lang.
This makes me remember the days of Jos Lukai. This was like, because you couldn't work out, and during those times it was like, sure, we're Sheffield Wednesday, we had a lot of old pros who have injury issues. Or have never had injury issues before, but suddenly they have injury issues now. In fact, actually, I think Josh Windass said he's never really had many injury problems.
Really?
On Twitter, that's what he was saying.
People should not say these things.
I know. It's a bit like some of the things that me and you text, and then we see things like that happening. In fact, I was perilously close from texting my friend Daz, who at university had a friend who was the daughter of the Burton Albion chairman.
Oh, right.
And so he's got a bit of an affection for that side. So I was just joking with him whether he's been torn at Wednesday beating Burton Albion, because this is actually the first time that we've each actually beaten Burton Albion in our history.
Wow. Mind you, is that one of those where we've played them like 3 times in our history?
Yes. This is like
the answer is yes.
The answer is yes. This is like the 6th time I think we've played Burton Albion or something on those lines. There's like 5 games before.
They are like Icarus-like, touching the high point of their history, and we are what's the opposite of Icarus? we're Icarus after he's burnt his wings.
We're Icarus's second cousin, Licorice, who would often lick the ground. It didn't turn out well for him.
Icarus Act 2, the crunching landing on the ground. Crawling to safety.
So no, but just looking at that, go back to looking at the lineup. I mean, it's
pretty wacky.
It's wacky. It's depressing to look at for the fact that there's so many names missing. I mean, I didn't think it was a terrible lineup. It was, there's enough kind of core and solidity in that spine to make it work. But again, like comparing back to Jos Lukai times, there was like he would often do like a really wacky lineup, which was purely just thanks to the fact that we don't fully know at the time whether he had a big personal thing against a lot of like aging professionals who he didn't think did they played well enough or gave enough effort. They were maybe maybe Jos Lukai was a bit of a Germanic Danny Wilson, proclaiming George Boyd to be a fancy Dan, maybe. Something along those lines, but but then there was some lineups which were just wacky and bizarre, but then they worked.
Yeah,
from Jos Lukai, and it had a very big vibe like that. Especially now we're playing with the 3-5-2. I think that kind of first came to Wednesday under Jos Lukai, more of a 5-3-2 maybe.
Do you think in part it's just he can only tinker in so many? He still loves the rotation. He's addicted to the rotation, and he can only do that in literally like 2 positions now because there's so many injuries. Like you can't swap the defense around because there's nobody else. You can't do anything with that midfield because there's nobody else. But up top, you can throw a few bodies at it. You can throw a few round pegs in square holes. You can square pegs round holes. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. And I mean, to look at that, I mean, so that's the lineup you've mentioned.
Yeah.
Let's just take a little moment just to look at that bench, because that is a bench that is bereft of a lot of professional footballers. We've got Jaden Brown, who, again, like I've said before, could surprise us. He's not gone though, is he?
He's not going to, no.
Canberry, who, I'm happy to see in and around. Berahino, who I don't really want to see anything of.
No.
Liam Waldock.
Like,
this is the level we've got to. That, he's getting in around the bench.
He's getting there.
Obviously, Wildsmith as backup keeper. Kieran Brennan, and then Silas Sowell. But, look at that. We've got 3 strikers on the bench.
Yeah. It's literally, yeah. But then I suppose we're trying.
And then we've started 2 players. Strikers in the striking berth.
Yeah. So I suppose we've got. I suppose the thinking is we're trying to manage Canberry. He's returning from a surgery. We're not really told.
Yeah.
We're not really told what that surgery was, but he's coming back from a long spell on the sidelines. He played 2 sets of 90 minutes back to back. So I think managing him makes sense. Patterson always wants to play wherever, and nominally he was signed as a striker. And then I think maybe So's a little bit unlucky not to get the job, but then Mendes-Lang's just in such good form, so you kind of want to keep him around. He's a bit of pace alongside the tall guy, and today it was windy as balls. Really windy day, horrible pitch. I mean, fitting on another one of these weekends where people talk about the magic of the FA Cup as all of the little teams go out to the Premier League teams, that we play at the sort of ground that they talk about being a leveller for for the Ronaldos and David Silvers of this world.
While we're talking about this, Rich, I imagine you probably had the Burton commentary for this.
I did. Grumpy man from Burton.
Oh, that's lovely. John Pearson declares he'd rather play in snow than wind. Obviously, that's an impossibly rare situation where there's purely snow and no wind.
Yeah, it's all the weathers. Just wind on its own is the worst sort of weather.
I don't mind playing in rain. If it's rain that just comes down vertically with no wind at all. Which is obviously hilarious because that's never the case with...
Ideally, football would be played inside with artificial weather so that you have no wind, but different elements to play against. Somehow, weirdly, how was it that it looked so? We mentioned that this was a game of football of a quality that I spent time looking at what was going on the sidelines more often than normal. So we see this corner flag. The kind of the one opposite on the right was kind of isolated, had a nice wall behind it, so you could see it very clearly. How is it possible that it spent the whole first half going for them and towards our goal, and then they come out for the second half and it was going the other way? Like, have they got some sort of amazing Egyptian-style wind tunnel going on outside the ground there at Burton Albion to like funnel it to make sure they can switch it at half time?
Yes, they do.
So that their hoofball can always go as long as possible.
There you go.
But it was, I mean, there's not many times you notice how windy it is, like balls being kicked up in the air and like stopping and dropping and kind of and things like that, and like moving when people try and take corners and free kicks and things like that, the ball rolling away because of the wind. Like, this was an excessively windy day. Definitely, much more than you normally notice. But again, I think we started off reasonably well. This was a very scrappy game all the way through. First 5 minutes, we had a couple of crosses. We had one from Hunt, one from Johnson. Nobody really got on the end of them, but it kind of bode well for those two getting involved in things. To be honest, the next note I've got is that kind of spurious penalty shout for them. I don't know what you made of that. That was Byers sort of having a nibble at Chapman, their number 10.
That was about the 15-minute mark, wasn't it?
Yeah, 15-minute mark, yeah.
Yeah, I've got a few notes, because, I mean, I think you may have mentioned, it's a great work at the byline, tackle to Johnson, who put that wicked cross in, which was headed behind. And that was the resulting corner, which went to Bannon, who crossed for Pato to kind of very tamely head over in the way that
sort of went straight up.
Many poor strikers kind of unconvinced me with headers.
Him and Canberry need a goal, don't they, to kind of like get back on track. I think they both look like players that are a bit short on confidence in front of goal. 6
minute, I know there was some miscommunication between Hutch and Belly Peacock Farrell. Hutchinson did a very weak header behind, but I'm also wondering how much was kind of played by the situation of the wind, like just the awful kind of traditions today. That kind of trickled behind, but luckily nothing came from that corner. It was, again, like they kept trying to take corners, and then there were so many times that I think they wanted to make a long kind of regular cross from the corners, but then it just kept blowing the ball away every time they put it down. Yeah. So they ended up just doing like short corners for them. At this level, I've got to say, like, at this point, just going through my notes, I've got the note about John Pearson talking about snow and the wind.
Yeah.
This is giving me some real flashbacks to some very poor games against Burton Albion. It did have the one in my memory of the Gary Hooper scoring. I think it was 2017. That's where we went there, and I think we drew 1-1.
Oh, yeah.
They mentioned that, and that was poor.
Yeah.
Oh, it's not a really fun game, so I've got a lot of pithy comments to kind of get through. We look off across to the Rhaegar stand. This is obviously after Burton's finest export and runaway success, an app that detects Gareths. Can I tell you about, like, if I was the chairman of Burton Albion, there'd be one thing from their recent kind of kit. I don't know if it's been a historical thing with any of their decisions about some of the colours they've got. One thing I would be like, no, I'm not having any of this. Akin to kind of the world of, Vincent Tan making Cardiff dress in red.
Yes.
But my thing would be smaller, and it'd also have a pithy, probably annoying reason. I really hated their socks going from yellow to black, because if they had any players with black boots, it would look continuous and look like they're wearing some strange boots, some strange kind of fashion boots. Their number 37 had that. I can't remember his name, but I just hated looking at it. I kept finding myself just like staring at it, just being like, what? Where did it looks so weird.
Number 37 was Hamer, Thomas Hamer.
Thomas Hamer, yeah. So I'd just be like, sorry lads, you can't wear black boots.
Yeah.
Or we correct the socks. We just make the socks all yellow. Maybe that's what we do. Oh, I said, this is an ugly game. It's a mucky game, but not in a mucky, fun way.
No.
Maybe it's like you're watching kind of a pornography scene, but it somehow turns into, you expect it's going to be naughty, dirty, fun, sexy time, but then they just all poke themselves in the eyes, maybe. Maybe just somehow turns into Three Stooges in the middle of it. The playing surface is awful. It's windy. They're a crap side. This is a crap place to play.
Yeah.
I'm going to make lots of pithy, awful Billy Big Ball, Sheffield Wednesday fans comments about Burton Albion because this is grim. I
mean, it's hard to say if you've not seen the state of the pitch. I mean, it's a long time since I've seen one as bad as that. It really was dreadful. More sand than grass.
It made me wonder if, we talk about, like, I still haven't gone and done the research as to whether the Oldham ground is the most highest ground in highest elevation in the United Kingdom. But this feels like a really weird ground, maybe, where somehow, even though it is flat, maybe it's actually weirdly bent round on the top of a hill, so that all of it's maybe just succumbed to all the elements, all the piss, all the rain, all the wind. It just looks crap. Like, I'm going to be honest. And this is not leading to an entertaining football. That brings me to the 15-minute mark. I said, so following the corner move, I thought we were a little bit touch fortunate to not concede a penalty in that situation. I did enjoy Byers protesting little 90s dance move finger wag. He did a little bounce to it as well, like he was auditioning for some kind of knockoff of Boyzone, maybe.
Do you want to know highest football stadium? And this is in terms of being above sea level. The Hawthorns apparently is 552 feet, and then Boundary Park, Oldham, is 526. So it's pretty high up there, man.
Birdie,
it's pretty high up there, buddy. Don't know. Burton don't seem to come into it.
You imagine Cheech and Chong got their own box, got their own executive box at the Pirelli Stadium.
Maybe they weren't a league team at the time that this was all pulled together. Yeah, Burton on the list.
That was a beautiful Windows error noise we got.
It was nice, wasn't it? Yeah, just put you in place there. No, I agree. I don't know that Byers touched him, but I think it was one of those where the ref was the wrong side. Like, Byers was on the ref's side of it, and it looked like a pretty convincing dive. And given those two things, quite often a ref will give it, I think, just to kind of save face. 23rd minute, Byers, again, involved in things maybe not for the best of reasons, but Byers and Patterson absolutely smashed into each other on the edge of our box. Clashed heads. The ref played on like it's not a head injury if your own player does it to you. And then neither of them got a check afterwards. I know nothing came of it, but they ran face first into each other. Like, aren't we supposed to have safety protocols? Aren't we supposed to be looking after people in these situations?
You'd think.
Just because a player gets up and plays, that's not enough. It's the ref's got to look after the players. They're always going to want to get up and play on.
Do you think, like, the interesting thing we talk about like typically, in our history of loving the beautifully inconsistent wingers we've had, akin to our love affairs with Jermaine Johnson.
Yeah.
Do you think a bit similar to how their careers, like they'd be playing at the higher level if they were more consistent? Do you think that also applies to referees as well?
Maybe.
Because it is very inconsistent.
If they were consistently competent.
Yes.
They'd be home by now.
I said that this was a clumsy bombardment from Burton Albion.
Yeah, we definitely had to weather a storm early on in that game, didn't we? I think we were struggling with the elements. Interestingly, on their commentary, they were talking about how I think they're worse at home. So they're in that weird position where it should be a strength for them that they've got such an awful ground to play in because they should know it. Well, Wednesday had that a couple of seasons ago, didn't we? Where you're like, well, we play on it every other week. We should be.
Yeah,
we should know it's going to bounce weird and run slow, and like the other team should be coming and being perplexed by it. It shouldn't be that we're worse at home.
Yeah,
it should be an additive. But I think they're in that same spot where it's not helping them. It's hindering them. I did say the this is one of my little pithy comments to join you in the crew. The football is so good that a person could be distracted by the mascot. Not me, but weaker men.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, Rich, because maybe I'll fast forward a little bit. We'll come back and talk about the rest of the chances. Okay. But I first clapped eyes on Billy Brewer. Is that his name?
Bertie, I think he is.
Bertie Brewer. I said, can we talk about the Burton mascot? So we had a corner like near the death, which was of the first half with Mendes Lang. In that corner, the mascot gestures with Mendes Lang to get a move on with it, which would have been delicious had we scored from the corner.
Yeah.
So I said, so Burton are the Brewers, and maybe the large, malformed Beano character, Bertie Brewer, of a mascot, maybe is there to, raise awareness of fetal alcohol syndrome.
Oh. I mean, really, it's like somebody.
I can't be cancelled if it's about a mascot. It's just a grotesque cartoon abomination.
It's like sometimes you do those pictures where like everybody draws a line, and somebody's been asked to draw a fat Dennis the Menace, and every person
mixed with no, they said fat Dennis the Menace mixed with the facial features of Plug from the Bash Street Kids
with Bell's palsy. It's a hideous creature. Awful. I think they've tried to incorporate, like, why are they obsessed with their initials? The weird, because their logo is that weird, like, A. Big fat belly kicking a ball, right? And he's got the B across his eyes. He's got the B on his eyes. I think his mouth makes an A or something. I don't know.
Picture a world where Luke has just become the new, enterprising and exciting young editor of the Dandy. Richard Miller comes in as an artist, and Luke says to him, "Rich, I've got this brilliant idea. I want you, Rich, to do a new plotline where Desperate Dan becomes the Elephant Man."
He eats, instead of a cow pie, he eats pie and catches elephantitis.
It's a real fug of a mascot, isn't it?
It really is. Oh dear.
Is it made to make
I'm Froggy.
Make ugly people like me and you feel better about ourselves?
Would you bring me another pie, please? I'm Froggy. The flower is here town. Oh dear.
Is he Mrs. Havisham up in the attic of the Pirelli Stadium? Oh, let me out for this game of football.
Oh dear. Oh.
I like the Burton fans more than my friends, the pigeons in the roof.
Speaking of the roof, he does have something of Quasimodo about him. I think
it is a bit, isn't it? It's
the
hunchback of Burton Albion.
The hunch front of Burton Albion.
Hunch front. He bore all of the hunch in his face.
Oh. Anyway, we scored a goal, Luke.
We did indeedy. Yeah, that was the 31st minute, wasn't it? We won a corner through some great work for Johnson. He got a deflection, which won the corner. And maybe that was just because it's so difficult in the air and difficult to get it up there. That's why I thought some great invention from both Bannon and Mendes-Lang to combine with that little kind of 1-2. Mendes-Lang surges in and just pings it at the keeper, parried away. Byers reacts very well, very quickly, and nice little kind of swivel acrobatic nature to get it in. 2-2 for George Byers.
Yeah, who'd have thunk it?
Who'd have thunk it? Yeah,
certainly not me. It's interesting because we did nearly, like you're saying that he was geeing Mendes-Lang along. We did nearly score from that corner as well. Like we were slightly unlucky not to go in 2-0 up after this dreadful half of football. Story almost got off the mark. That was a good corner from Mendes-Lang. Another good
that was. I was staggered. How it didn't go in. I mean, it was. I think we did everything it did. I think Garrett did very well.
Yeah,
the Burton Albion keeper to keep it out in that situation.
Definitely.
That was one from the commentary. I think they were saying like, how did that stay out? And I completely agree with them.
It's almost, I think, like it might be one of those when you watch it back, it kind of like went through his legs, but kind of came off his bum cheeks or something. You know, sometimes like a keeper will just land on the ball fairly fortunately, or like some vestige of their body lands just a bit behind the rest and saves the ball. But yeah, I mean, the goal was great. I mean, short corner routine that worked. Us capitalising on a goalkeeper spilling a ball for once. I mean, it's so often the boot's on the other foot in that regard. And well done, George Byers. What a great return to first team action for him.
By George, I think he's established himself in centre midfield.
It's nice when somebody's there through necessity, but he's grabbing this second opportunity, isn't he?
It is. It's something that I think we feel cursed and worried that it's never going to happen for Sheffield Wednesday, but it did.
It probably helps as well that he's our player. Like he's not a lead that can scarper off somewhere with his tail between his legs and try again somewhere else. We're it for him, presumably for the foreseeable. So make it work here or don't play. And he wasn't playing much at Swansea, so good on him for taking it with the right attitude.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have anything else before half time. I don't know whether you do.
Yeah, there's a whole things I think we've kind of ripped over here. 19th minute, I think we whipped a corner in which the wind took, and then it led to a very nervy punch out from Garrett.
Oh yeah.
20th minute, I thought there was some great work that we sprung a counter attack. I don't know who put it long. Maybe it was Luongo who put it long for Mendes-Lang, and then it kind of bounced on. He did some brilliant work to kind of run onto it, get round. Had the beating of his right back a few times today. When Mendes-Lang, when he drifted out to the left, I mean that's the interesting thing is I thought he did well and had a good game, but then if I think about it, he probably shouldn't really be on the left, but then I don't know, it's effective. So
it's a combination that's worked well as well, isn't it? And I think possibly sometimes him drifting out meant that Johnson could go further forward or come further infield, and Johnson was having a very effective spell in and around their box as well.
Mm-hmm. What else kind of happened? I thought there was a brilliant, neat, quick 1-2 with Hunt and Byers. So Hunt was surging forward, and then lovely kind of deft flick on from the back from Byers. Hunt then surged forward, played it in low, but it was cleared before Patson could manage to get there. I thought it was a really weird moment on the 35th minute. There was Palmer. Palmer was been on the angle, but then somehow the ref pulled it back for a foul on Mendes-Lang, but then he said it was a foul against Wednesday.
This is a weird goal. This was a weird refereeing performance.
It was a weird refereeing performance. 41st minute, Byers tries to replicate another worldie, but then he puts it out of the ground.
Yeah, that was...
It's fun. It's fun with the small grounds, watching the people kick the ball out of onto the rough.
Do you want to guess? Do you know how many times the ball went out the stadium today?
I'm going to guess 9 times.
It was 9 times.
Woo! What do I win?
You win, absolutely. Zilch, nada. But the last one was that terrible Mendes-Lang free kick that just went like...
Yeah.
Straight up in the air. It would be really hard to do that on purpose, I think.
I think so, yeah.
Nice big yawn from Luke.
Oh dear.
Don't.
Well, we're coming into the second half, so this is where we just
yeah. The energy
put our feet off the gas.
Second half, what second half?
Second half, what second half? It's a game of 45 minutes. It's a game of one half.
And if you're lucky, that's enough.
So yeah, no, that is it for the first half.
Yeah, so we kind of saw a bit of a flurry from them at the start, but once we kind of weathered that, really, they didn't threaten very much at all.
Was there some projectile issues with some people throwing some coins onto the pitch?
They stopped the second half. They stopped the game early on in the second half, and apparently there was announcements about throwing things, but also abusing the assistant referee, and they also stopped the game later on as well. So part of the reason we ended up with 8 minutes of time added on with those two changes, which you just you don't want to see that really. It was Wednesday fans. This lino happens to be Asian and female. You don't want to try and guess at what people were saying, but it's not hard to imagine people saying things that were entirely inappropriate and probably won't be a great look for our football club when things, when push comes to shove. But there we go. We're wagging our fingers in the same way as George Byer's been in a different direction at those Wednesday fans. But just as much sass.
Oh dear. Oh well.
Oh well. Yeah, I mean, it's a fun, boisterous occasion, isn't it? Go and see a football team away, but
isn't it like there wasn't like anything that there would? I don't think there were any calls made that were anything to take issue with before you get to the point of being a dick about things and then being personal to someone, which is not called for and not acceptable.
Exactly.
Anyway, I wanted to ask, just because I was kind of confused as to what was going on. I actually popped out at half-time to get myself a Pepsi and some Doritos. Brought to you by Lay's International. George Bias's dance moves brought to you by Dana International.
So I've got a note, 51st minute. I don't know whether you were back by that stage or not, but
I was.
Okay. That was Mendes Lang sort of nicking the ball on the halfway line, playing it to Bannon, setting up a kind of 1-2 with Bannon, where he was played in behind that back line. And effectively, it was kind of a 2-on-1. They only really had one defender back. Patterson was breaking his back to get into the area and keep up with Mendes Lang, but unfortunately, Mendes Lang's cross to Patterson was really well defended by Brayford. Brayford got himself in the way there.
He's not just any right back. Marks and Spencer's very own John Brayford.
Burton Albion. Ooh, he's got a beard.
The pigs spunked a cool million on him to be rubbish.
But he did well in that,
Yeah.
I think Mendes Lang possibly should have done better, but I think you saw why we'd gone for that. You see why Mendes Lang's the person we've popped up there, though, because that threat on the break is constant. He's got so much pace. He runs with such power. Yeah.
Also, I want to celebrate as well. This is the first time in 3.5 years of doing this podcast, Rich, which I think, as far as I'm recollected, and please correct me if I'm wrong here, Rich, where in my notes I've somehow misspelt Bannon as Nanan.
Lovely stuff. Nanan.
Beautiful. What's your next note from them, Rich? Because I've got a few notes, but I mean, it felt like it kind of the pace of it did kind of cool down a little bit.
Yeah.
Or maybe kind of opened up and got a little bit frantic, but really didn't have any great moments of kind of quality. I want to kind of say as part of this. Yeah, if you
kind of break the pitch into thirds, it was all kind of happening in the middle third, wasn't it? And not much end-to-end stuff. My next note is 60 minutes, so I don't know if you've got anything in between there.
No, me too.
Yeah, 60 minutes, there's kind of several, it's a throw-in and there's 2 or 3 headers that nobody really gets a hold of. It just kind of like bounces along between them. Falls to Johnson, who gets the ball to Massimo Luongo, and Luongo swivels and gets a shot away. Pretty nice turn to get to make the space for himself. But unfortunately, it's straight over the bar and straight. It would have been straight at the keeper as well. Either way, but. It's still holding a threat. I think that was the kind of the thing. We're ahead. We're still attacking. We're still holding a threat. I've just put this is pretty poor from both teams, to be honest. But Wednesday vaguely the better of the two sides. It was a very, very low quality game of football. This it has to be. Yeah. The pitch does not help. The wind really didn't help. But this was. We didn't quite come down to their level. We maintained some of our quality.
No, but I mean, largely, Rich and I were pulling a similar face to Bertie Brewer against this game of football, weren't we?
But they were abysmal. This is this outside of that first 10, 15 minutes where they sort of tried to get going at a pace. They were really rubbish. Really.
As lumpy and as piss poor a League One side we've played?
I think so.
This season, yeah. I feel like the Morecambes and the Shrewsburys of the world have had more quality than this outfit.
Think so. Their commentators were oddly obsessed with Hasselbank. I guess that's one of the most... It's like the famous thing about the club at the moment is Hasselbank as the manager.
Well, wasn't the thing with Hasselbank that he had like a really fantastic run with Burton as his first managerial bow? And then he jumped for the big time, and then he failed, and then he's back there, right?
Yeah.
Which is not any criticism. I think that story's happened elsewhere with other people.
Has. Yeah.
Yeah.
But they were really like in the first half. They're like, oh, he's gonna get told off by the manager. Oh, rather him than me. Oh, he's a brave man to do this and that. Is Hasselbank like a notably scary character? I always remember him being like one of the sort of nice guys of...
No, he's a pretty... maybe he's lethal in a striking way, but he was never particularly a nasty character. And...
No, it was really quite odd. I mean, I know, as I say, like it's the famous thing about the club, so I guess you make a point of him being the manager. But they'd also made a couple of signings. So we were up against one of them from the off in Malt. They just signed Louis Malt. So they were like... talking him up a lot on the commentary, and then they kept going on about Sadie.
Were they lamenting? Was it the young piglets that United sent them on loan, Jebison, being recalled? Because that was...
They didn't mention it. I don't know whether it was mentioned pre-match, but it wasn't mentioned during the match.
I'm curious how the monitors up, because I know that was kind of maybe kind of angled for a kind of a bit of clickbaitiness from the local press to be like, oh, Sheffield United have done Wednesday a favour today.
Right.
And I didn't know what it was, and I had to find out. I was like, oh, he's the young kind of teenage striker who I think is coming through. I think he scored against Everton on like maybe one of his debuts in one of the
which is enough to for £5 million, isn't it? By
the rare highlights in Sheffield United's crappy season in the Prem, the last one they had. But then that kind of reminded me, I guess, of like... You saw how... Was it Matty Longstaff from Newcastle? Went on loan to Mansfield. Did you see this?
Bizarre.
Yeah, but it does make you wonder, like, sometimes how much a high-profile goal, as he scored a high-profile goal against Manchester United for a win against Newcastle, kind of will probably buy you quite a while in your career. Yeah,
because I've always thought, he's a decent player. And assumed he was still on the outskirts of their first team, but maybe that's not been the case. So I only really do remember that one goal.
Yeah.
Or maybe he got a couple close together or something, but yeah.
When's your next note, Rich? From the
next note? What, 70th minute?
Okay, because I thought the 64th minute Story did really well to clear the ball from a surge of pressure from Burton.
Oh, yeah.
He actually, kind of slid it out for a throw-in. And defensively, which was really good. That
was really good, actually. That was really good, and especially going for a throw-in. It was quite an achievement from the space he was in. I thought he had. I mean, he's quietly had a very good start to life as a Wednesday player, but today he had a great game. He
was very good. He was a lot more pronounced with the work that he did today.
Yeah.
So he was a very pivotal part of that back three. 67th minute, we mentioned Mendes-Lang clearing the stadium from the free kick.
Yeah, so bad. 70th minute, I've got that Luongo played a dangerous ball to Byers, who inexplicably tried to sort of like dink it back to him, and it completely failed. It dropped about halfway short of its target and set them off on a counter, and Luongo dived in to sort of take the yellow, but he almost overdid it. That was a pretty nasty challenge. A guy that's just come off the back of a 3-game stint on the sideline for a suspension. I was worried we were going to see red again.
So interesting. I missed that first play that I think you've kind of covered. So you thought it was a really bad pass from Luongo.
Well, Luongo kind of, it didn't necessarily. Byers did the worst possible thing he could have done, but Luongo shouldn't have passed it to him. He was not the player he should have played it to. He was already under a lot of pressure, which is Byers panicked in the pressure, but he didn't need to be put in that pressure. The kind of domino,
right?
The dominoes dropping of this this movement of the game was Luongo looked at 3 or 4 options presumably and picked a bad one.
Byers didn't do so well with his control, though, didn't he?
Byers did awful. That was, it didn't necessarily need to be a disaster, but what Byers did ensured they were going to get the ball from us.
Yeah, so I mean, whoever's to blame, that's it. Luongo did take a yellow for the team, and
he did.
Covered the cock up by Byers.
Yeah. Oh, I'm not excusing Byers from blame. I'm just sort of saying some of it splashes onto Luongo. It was definitely...
And then maybe another potentially contentious decision a minute afterwards in kind of a counter from this chance.
Oh, yeah.
So kind of fortunate for Garrett, the Burton Albion keeper.
Yeah.
Maybe a yellow was about deserved. So Johnson did some great work again. He was fantastic today.
He was.
Pinged it down the left, and then Mendes-Lang, really, it was kind of a bit beyond him, but he was doing his kind of pounce and kind of poach to get out there. A bit of miscommunication between, Marks and Spencer right back John Brayford and Garrett. And then basically Garrett did basically take a yellow. Yeah. And maybe their arguments, if they were not covering defenders in that situation, could have been a red. Let's be honest.
That close to the sideline, I think it's going to be rare you'll get it. But it was pretty. I don't know really what he was doing out there as the goalkeeper, to be honest. But he leaves himself with no choice really than to go, and he has to stop the play regardless of what happens really, because he's gone out there and missed. Yeah, that passed me by a little bit. Sorry, I didn't make a note on that element, which I should have done. We then started making our subs. So Byers and Mendes-Lang came off, and So and Canberry came on, and that meant Patterson dropped a bit deeper into midfield. And So almost had an immediate impact. There was another great moment from Johnson. I'm calling it kind of a shoss because it was a cross but hit low and hard, and it would have gone in if the keeper hadn't have intervened. And the keeper let it squirm out from his hands, and it just went behind. So his momentum, he saw that the moment was emerging, and raced in to try and finish things off. But because of the keeper's touch, it just went behind him, and his momentum was going in the other direction. But another fine bit of play from Johnson, and almost another goal for Wednesday. 77 minutes, Bannon. We just hit a straight corner. We've been trying to do different things with the corners today, but this was just a cross, and Luongo got his head on it. Unfortunately, it was a bit kind of lofty and a fairly easy keeper to deal with, but a shot on target and a fairly decent set piece all round. We then had probably our biggest scare of the game. Yeah, was Hutchinson got his position. So they brought on a bigger front man, and we panicked seeing a big front man. And the first time we had to deal with him at a long ball, Hutchinson got his position completely wrong. ended up heading it backwards into the path of Chapman, their number 10, who was played into a one-on-one with Bailey Peacock-Farrell, who got down fantastically well. Really brave.
Yeah. Really
he went with his legs, but he made himself big. It was very kind of Schmeichel-esque in some ways. And the ball ricocheted out. They did recycle the ball, but he also caught the cross that came in after that as well, which was nice and reassuring for everybody. Did really well. So then this is where I had started buffering around this period of time in my feed, and it cut out altogether at the 80-minute mark for just long enough for me to miss the goal and any of the replays of the goal. So I had the nice surprise once it loaded up again of seeing that we were 2-0 up. But what did I miss, Luke?
Just such great work again from Johnson. You know, he dinked it in following a throw-in to Bannon, who struck it low. It looked like it took a nick. I thought it took a nick clearly off a Burton defender, but went clearly and very well into the far right corner. And the coverage gave the goal to Silasau, so it seems on kind of playing it back that he did actually get a touch on that to put it in, and probably maybe an important touch from what we see. So yeah, 2-0. But it looked like a great finish, and good work from Bannon regardless to get that strike in.
Yeah, I've since seen a replay back, so I do feel I feel complete in that regard. But I think so. It needed So's touch. I think it was great. It was great play by Bannon, but I think it's a smart finish by So. He knows where the goal is. Same as Canberra. Like, he's maybe not the most gifted footballer, but he knows where the goal is, and there's so many gifted footballers who don't. So it's not the worst thing in the world. It's not a bad habit to have to be able to put that thing in the old onion bag. I miscounted. Sorry, I have got another note here. 10 balls out of the ground. Another ball went out of the ground, Luke. It's 10 in the end. I said that we had our most worrying moment. We also had another worrying moment, 88th minute or thereabouts. I put this down as 3 saves by Bailey Peacock-Farrell. They were talking.
I think so.
But I thought he saved that first one.
Really, I thought it was just rifled onto the post.
Well, yeah, I'm not sure, but they had some chances in a row there, didn't they? Really,
they did. First
effort from distance, either saved by Bailey Peacock-Farrell or absolutely smashed off the post and came about 20 yards out. They then had another couple of chances, and Bailey Peacock-Farrell got himself in the way of it, and eventually somehow came out with the ball in his hands. He quietly had a good game today. You know, those are key moments. If he bottled it on that one-on-one or made a mistake, and he also caught the ball so many times from crosses and shots. He didn't drop anything today on a day that was windy and there was lots of excuses to be made. So many times he sort of had his defenders had the reassurance of him getting that ball in his hands and slowing everything down, taking the time, and none more so than this moment. He put together a good couple of blocks and then comes away with the ball. Brennan came on for Bannon, and we got 8 minutes of time added on, which seems extraordinary.
I thought there'd be a few, because I remembered thinking about the whole incident with the official.
Yeah.
So I thought there would be something that would come from this, but still, it was still surprising to see that there was 8 whole minutes.
Oh, definitely.
Of stoppage time.
Yeah. But by and large, we sort of rode it. I don't really remember them having chances in that time added on, particularly.
No. I think it's just a case of the game just kind of wrestling out from that point, I'll be honest.
Yeah. So yeah, it did make me laugh though that they were really excited about this Christian Saidi making his appearance. And he his first thing was he got the ball on like the halfway line, just like fell over flat on his face. And they were like, and then at the end of the game, they're like, oh, it's mouth-watering to see what he's going to be able to pull off for us. Oh, it's a real tantalizing cameo. He got on Who Scored, he got 5.7. He was the worst player involved in the game. But we've all been there. We all want to get excited about the Premier League youngster that's turned up, but he looked completely useless. Bless him. If that gets you excited, then more power to you. But 3 straight wins and 3 straight clean sheets, as we touched on earlier. This is what we've been crying out for, really.
Yeah, what an amazing run of form.
And seemingly out of nowhere as well.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that. Yeah, and all of that's putting us in very decent position and very decent, seemingly run and outlook for February now.
Yeah,
which we knew this was a pretty huge month.
Absolutely,
for Sheffield Wednesday, but we're doing what we need to do. Yeah,
got a couple of big games coming up, haven't we?
There's some big games. Let's get on to that after we cover. Let's look at the man of the match.
Oh, it's tricky.
It's a tough one, yeah.
I think you have to go first this time because you forced me to go first last time.
Okay. Going through options, going through people involved.
You can have some honourable mentions as well.
There's going to be a few of those, I'm going to be honest with you.
Just one thing, by the way. Sorry, obviously this weekend is Magic of the FA Cup weekend. So I was watching the Kidderminster West Ham game. And on TV, they're always forced to pick. It really annoys me, but they force the co-commentator to pick a man of the match before the end of the game. They're like, oh, well, it's nearly 90 minutes now. So who's your man of the match? And it's like, the match isn't finished. Things could change. So they gave man of the match to their like sort of hoary old centre-back for Kidderminster, who almost as the words came out of the commentator's mouth was just turned inside out by Declan Rice, who scored the equaliser to send it to extra time. It was like, so who's your man of the match again? Is it that guy? That guy that's gone for a hot dog? But like, you could score a hat-trick in 3 minutes. Anyway, sorry. It's well and truly the end of our game, so I think we're welcome.
Oh, wow. So, honourable mentions. I kind of want you to go first because I'm still kind of wrestling this in my head, but I'm going to carry on. I'm going to make up my mind when we get there. Peacock Farrell was great. Yeah. As we mentioned, had some real heroics. Story had a very, very, very good game today.
Did.
The real star of that back three. I mean, Hutch and Palmer were decent as well. Let's give them their kudos. And then Mendes Lang was very good.
Yeah. Johnson again.
Johnson was very good as well. And, it was a good game for Byers.
Yeah. Bannon.
I think Bannon was good as well. I think from those names, I think maybe I'm going to go for Marvin Johnson,
Ooh, that's a good call.
I just thought consistently it was impressive. It was difficult. At one point I was there wondering about whether it was going to be Mendes Lang.
Yeah.
Because he was very, very good.
He was very, very good. Oh, yeah, it's tricky. I think I'm probably happy. I thought Johnson had a great game as well. Just a real thorn in their side all the way through. And I don't know where he's got his energy from. He seems to have bags of... he can keep going. He's not the quickest, but he can play at that pace for the full game, which is maybe better than being quick for 40, 50 minutes and then not being able to keep that up.
He's looking so different as a player. He's looking so confident, so on it, so useful, so talented. It feels like a real change. Like, it feels like we've really just let him kind of flourish and bring himself out into playing into these games of football. Like, I felt the interesting thing was, like, I did make criticism of Rob O'Neill calling him a steady Eddie because that kind of covers over some of his defensive mishaps.
Yeah.
But I think it looks like we kind of restrained him for his kind of role within the Sheffield Wednesday team.
Yeah.
And now we're kind of unleashing him and letting him go. And he's looking like a really explosive player when we do that.
I wonder if weirdly getting those minutes, getting that game time, albeit in a weird position at centre back, has kind of allowed him to get comfortable and find himself again, kind of thing. And now he's back where it's natural. It's suddenly like, do you know, like it would.
Yeah.
There's nowhere to hide on a football pitch, really. It's very exposing, but you're less pressured generally on the ball in a defensive capacity. So if he was struggling and he hadn't quite found his feet, weirdly, like playing centre back, which he had good games there, he had bad games there, but it kind of gave him game time. And now he's gone shuffled back to where he's natural. It looks like as you say, he looks a different guy, but it's weird. You can't really do that for players. There's always that thing of like, oh, they look rusty. And it's like, well, they kind of need to play through the rust.
Yeah.
And oddly, he might have been allowed to do that.
in this weird different role.
Left-sided centre-back role.
Left-sided centre-back.
Yeah.
We've seen a very long gestation, cocooning period for this butterfly of Marvin Johnson.
Yes, yeah. But he sure is pretty now.
He's been a steady old chunky caterpillar at centre back.
Does he be one of those like bushy ones? Looks like a monkey.
I think so. Yeah, definitely.
I also think him and Mendes Lang have a nice partnership, and I think even though Mendes Lang was up top today, you saw the fact that they kind of can lean on each other. They understand each other's positioning.
Yeah. Isn't it weird? I completely forgot about Jack Hunt today.
Yeah. He didn't have a huge amount to do because they weren't really an offensive force, were they?
No, there's no great kind of wide men who were dangerous, really.
No.
Because it was all just...
I don't really know what they were trying to do. They would...
Hoofy.
But hoofing it straight to Peacock Farrell often. Just, like, skip the front man by, 9 feet. I think
again, a bad lumpy League One side who maybe could have scored.
Yeah.
You know, it's weird. So, who would you say for your man of the match, Rich?
I'm happy to go along with Johnson, but I think probably Peacock Farrell's a little bit unlucky to miss out.
That's fair.
I think it could have been a different sort of game if he hadn't done so well. He was very reassuring today in a way that he wasn't in the previous game. He was a worry in the previous game. But today he really looked calm and assured, used the ball well often. But just how many times it was like a magnet, it just caught it in front of his face so many times, partly because there was no quality on display from them. But on a windy day and a horrible pitch where there's be so many excuses for getting things wrong, he gave like his most assured performance in weeks. But yeah, I mean, tremendous stuff, really. What a great run, and what a it wasn't a great game of football, but we were comfortable pretty much throughout. Maybe we've found some kind of way to play these sort of teams. I don't know. Maybe that's too. I'm getting ahead of myself too much. But like, I think having the two front men and challenging them in behind means they can't get too over the top. And I don't think it's a coincidence that we've been keeping two men up at corners as well. So we're just trying to always keep a pacey threat on the break so that they can't pile in and overcommit on us. And seems to be bearing fruit to an extent.
Mm-hmm.
Good stuff. But yeah, a big old couple of games now. We have the top two essentially visiting Hillsborough. Wigan, who
sorry, I'm sorry, I'm going but not for the reason you think I'm going. But anyway, carry on. Wigan, we're entertaining Wigan.
We got Wigan Tuesday night. Wigan, who we beat at their place, were one of the very few teams to have beaten them this season. They've only lost 4 games this season. We're a quarter of their losses thus far. Although interestingly, they've drawn their last 2 games, so they're not in kind of the red hot form they were a couple of weeks ago. But they're in fine fettle. Let's not kid ourselves on that front. And then Rotherham following weekend, who've won 4 on the bounce at this stage.
I mean, they haven't lost in the league since the end of October. Wigan. Let's put it in that.
Let's put it in a proper context.
In that terms. I was going, because we're home against Rotherham. We're doing wacky midday kickoffs, aren't we, on a Sunday?
Oh, right, yes.
You're going to have to go to Hillsborough on a Sunday, right?
Yeah. Ugh.
Hillsborough on a Sunday.
Isn't there anything worse than Hillsborough on a Sunday? I was one of the lucky few, the lucky 4,000 or 5,000 people that have got tickets to the Donny away.
Have you really?
Yeah, a rare away day.
That should be fun.
Should be good.
Please tell me how the land of heroin treated you. I had a great story where I went to Doncaster and then I was seeing Wednesday there, and I was, before the days of such the readily available smartphones. Yeah. And I asked some local person where the stadium was, and she went, "Which one?" Which I think in her was basically thinking like the race course was a stadium, but like it's not a stadium. It's a race course, madam.
I think the only time I've been to Doncaster, I saw a U2 concert
at the Dome.
Yeah, well, the Athletics Stadium it was.
Oh, okay.
I'm not a huge U2 fan, but it was, I thought.
So you've been to Donny's Ground to see U2?
Oh right, yeah, okay, yes, yeah.
Okay. Just clarifying.
So I'll be returning.
Maybe the joke's on me. Maybe there is a multitude of stadiums in Doncaster. Maybe that's all there is.
They call it Stadium City.
Twinned with nowhere else. Nowhere else has the ideas to put 10 stadiums in one location.
I'm not a huge U2 fan, but I was, I sort of enjoyed my time at the concert. I think 5 encores is too many. That's just, I'm going to say that for anybody.
Hot take.
Yeah, but the worst thing about it was getting out of the car park afterwards. I think we were like 3 hours in the car park. It was just complete madness.
That's like getting out of Glastonbury.
It was like a mini Glastonbury in Stadium City. Headliners, the bumper of the car in front, because that's what you watched for the longest amount of time. So that, I mean, it's a tough week, but then we're in decent form as well. We've won 4 out of 5 going in. There's no time like the present, really, in terms of our form in this season. So fingers crossed. It's going to be tough, but interestingly, I think we've tended to do not too badly in these games, particularly at home. It's more the kind of the tiddlers that have given us grief. The ones we should win have been much harder for us. But yeah, there we go. It'd be interesting to look back on it, although not in ideal circumstances. That will be a late one, podcast-wise, I guess.
It will. I guess I have to ask my question. Do I want to get up for 5 a.m. in the morning?
That's a big question.
I'll think about it then. But yeah, next episode might be a bit late, but we'll get it out there, folks.
Yeah, there will be some more content in your feed at some point. Content.
Okay. On that note,
wish you all the best for the week ahead, and we'll talk again. Cheerio, folks.
See you, everybody. Bye.